Welcome Star Wars fans to the Hyperspace Database. I'm Jonesy the Mandalorian, your host here with today's topic, the Uhumele transport. The Uhumele was a modified Maka Eekai L4000 light transport developed prior to the Clone Wars conflict by Gallifrey Yards Incorporated, which also produced the popular GR-75 transport seen during the evacuation of Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back. The L4000 was 66 meters long and had a maximum atmospheric speed of 800 kilometers per hour. It had a Class 2 hyperdrive and was equipped with deflector shields. It was armed with 2 dual laser cannon turrets and crewed up to 4 total crew members typically, while holding up to 9 passengers. It was also capable of hauling up to 410 metric tons of cargo in its small cargo bay. The ship was designed to be more comfortable than its larger brethren, and therefore could not haul as much cargo, as the interior was spacious for living quarters and other rooms. While it was roughly 2/3 the size of the GR-75, the L4000 could only carry about 10% of the cargo that the GR-75 could, mainly because it prioritized comfort over cargo space. This design was intended to appeal to wealthy merchants, who theoretically would sacrifice the cargo space for a more comfortable life aboard ship, and would pay the premium price for the luxury freighter, considering that a brand new GR-75 had the same 180,000 credit price tag. It was made during the opening years of the Clone Wars, which was a terrible time for many manufacturers of non-military ships, as the war effort consumed much of the Starship factory's capacities, and led to shortages in supplies, and therefore a hit to the galactic economy as a whole. This unfortunate fact made the sale of the large, luxury freighter a difficulty, and as a result, Gallifrey Yards was forced to drastically cut their prices to sell the units they had already produced. While more units were sold because of this significant price slash, it really hurt Gallifrey as a company, and they never really recovered from it financially. By the age of the Rebellion and by the time of the Battle of Yavin, most of the L4000 transports were phased out, and many of them were scrapped for parts to install on larger ships that had greater cargo capacities. Being a freighter, this ship was often modified to suit the needs of its owner, and could be expanded to allow more cargo to be hauled, or outfitted with very nice cabins to make it a passenger ship, with room for extra provisions. One of the most famous models of this ship was the Uhumele, which was a smuggling ship used shortly after the rise of the Empire. The ship was captained by Shirk Heron, and was crewed by 7 other beings who also lived on the ship. The ship was featured in the Dark Times comics series by Dark Horse Comics, and chronicles the adventures of former Jedi Master Das Jenner, as well as the crew of the Uhumele after the events of Order 66 and the rise of the Empire. One standout feature of the Uhumele was an additional gun turret on the underside of the ship, where a pilot would descend into a firing pod and control the cannons from an exposed pod for better visual targeting. It also featured many hidden weapons and systems, though of what kind and how many is a mystery, as these were wisely left off of its technical specifications. The crew of the Uhumele stumbled into many adventures trying to make their way through the universe, from breaking up slaving rings to smuggling expensive artifacts past Imperial troops, to even being on the run from Darth Vader himself. There was never a dull moment with the crew, especially after Das Jenner joined them. Das Jenner went on the run after Order 66, and eventually joined up with his former enemy, a Nosarian named Bomo Greenbark, who served the CIS army until they were betrayed at the end of the war. Jenner and Greenbark fought against the newly formed Imperial troops on the planet of New Plimto, though they were greatly outnumbered, and the resulting casualties left only Jenner and Greenbark as the survivors. They then stowed aboard the Uhumele, but were caught and forced to explain their predicament to the captain. An unlikely partnership formed then, and the crew went on many missions together that saw them encounter many different beings across the galaxy. The last we see of the Uhumele, it was still operating as a smuggling ship avoiding Imperial patrols, and continued to do so for as long as the Empire existed. While the Uhumele was a small exception to the rule for the aging Maka Eekai L4000 light transports, it served its purpose well for the smuggling crew, and was often able to slip past Imperial checkpoints with ease, and smuggle all kinds of illegal goods past the noses of the fledgling Imperial army. Want to know more about great Star Wars topics like this one? Stick around to the end for some secret trivia, hit those like and subscribe buttons, and the bell to never miss an episode. Be sure to chat with me in the comments because I want to hear from you guys. Super special shout out to my gold captain level Patreon supporters Miss 2003, Matthew Scott, and Nick Sutphin. Your support is so appreciated. Thank you so much. Hit me up in the comments and talk with me, and you can follow the show on social media for more news and channel updates. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.